Our son Thomas was born in 2007, and my story begins when he was around 6 months old. We had moved him into his own bedroom, although I felt that he was too young, but this was the advice we were given, so we went along with it. Because I was so apprehensive, I had to buy a baby monitor for my own peace of mind. We lived in an older house with thick brick walls, and I didn't trust that we would hear him. The monitor I bought was an old type with only audio, but I felt much better that it was there to help. Tom seemed to settle in well, and for the first month or so, there were no issues. I carried the receiver with me everywhere I went in the house, ready to race to him if he woke up. Then, I began hearing strange noises, usually starting with static interference. Then after that settled, I would hear what I took to be movement and rustling. I always went to check on my baby, but he would normally be fast asleep. I talked with my husband about it, and he assured me that interference was normal on those devices, which did calm me down at first. The noises continued intermittently. Nights would go by without anything, and then nights where I spent my time with the receiver on my ear, trying to make out what I was hearing. I was still in the mindset that I was listening to something not in our house, but picked up from elsewhere, and although it always started with a static noise, the sounds that followed were changing. Now, instead of rustling and movement, I began hearing a very low and soft-spoken voice. I could never make out what the voice was saying, but I thought it sounded female. I had many conversations about it with my husband, but he's a practical man, always offering a dismissive answer for what was to him normal behavior for a cheap radio device. I did on one occasion mention the paranormal, but that was clearly not a subject he believed in, because of the comments that he gave. I wasn't sure at all what to think of it. It became a sort of obsession with me. I knew none of my immediate neighbors had a baby, so they were unlikely to be the source of the interference, but further afield, I knew little of the people who lived there. On sunny days, I would check the washing lines in the gardens I could see from our rear bedroom window, just to see if anyone had hung out baby clothes to dry, but never witnessed any. My reasoning was that if another baby monitor was interfering with ours, they would have to be living pretty close. Unfortunately, I drew a blank, so I concentrated on trying to decipher any of the words that were being spoken. Every time the static noise began, I would pick the monitor up and listen intently. The voice was always soft-spoken, almost whispering, and to my annoyance, I could never make it out. The night that changed everything, though, was in September 2007. I had just sat down on the couch next to my husband to watch some television, and the static noises started on the monitor. This time, though, Tom began crying, so instead of listening further, I left the monitor where it was on the coffee table in front of us and went to tend to him. I went upstairs to his room, and as I opened the door, I heard an adult voice say, "Get out!" I stopped in my tracks, eyes looking around the room but seeing nothing. Within seconds, my husband was behind me. Before I could say a word, he said, "I heard someone saying 'get out' on the monitor," with a puzzled but worried look on his face. When I said I heard it too, it became shockingly clear to both of us that something not normal was going on. I would not have been able to hear it had it not come from inside that room. I grabbed Tom, and we all left the room. That same night, Tom's cot was moved back into our room, and he was 2 years old before he occupied his own room again. We still used the monitor until that time, but my husband and I had a deal. Whenever the static started, we took turns to go and sit with Tom in our room for a while until we felt whatever was visiting him knew it wasn't allowed to be alone with our son. Tom is almost an adult now, and recently we shared this story with him. He said that all of his life, if he ever woke up during the night, he would feel a presence in his room, and on occasion would wake up to what felt like a hand touching his face. Up until that point, he had thought it was his imagination. Apparently, the ghostly woman has always been with him. But why?